Okay, well, I have 9:35. I think we gave a little buffer there. Might be some other folks that will join us in a moment or two, and we'll warmly welcome them. But we'll go ahead and call to order the November 21st SEDA COG MPO meeting. The meeting will be recorded as is typical, helps us with minutes preparation, and we always make these available on our SEDA COG YouTube site, the audio piece for anybody that has inability to make it to the meetings, and also for the general public to consume the deliberations and discussion of the MPO as well. So that's your fair warning, and we have that on the agenda as well. Yeah. Consent to recording as part of your participation here today. So thanks everybody for being with us at our last meeting of 2025 as we march into a new year. And so typically, we just open it up. If there's anybody that's their first MPO meeting, we kind of do that since a lot of us are accustomed to each other in the room here. But anybody online that this is your first meeting, please go ahead and introduce yourself. And then I believe we did have a phone number. If you could identify yourself for the phone number joining us.
Justin Scaper.
Oh, thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. Some numbers I have memorized, but I didn't know offhand that. So thank you.
Yep.
Great. Okay, well, with those being addressed, next is our public forum. Is there anyone that has anything they'd like to bring up at this time for any items that are not on today's agenda? We offer that opportunity always. Okay, hearing none, I see none in the chat, and we're moving right along to item C of the packet. This was shared on Wednesday this week, just with some other delays. We meet our typical Monday target, but if you're following along here in the room or online, they begin on page 3. And so if everyone's had a chance to review the minutes, we'd look for adoption of the September 19th MPO meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Jim, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Don, thank you for the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain. I was absent.
Okay, thank you. Bob abstained, not being present for that meeting. Okay, up to item D. This is our normal tip administrative modifications. There are no amendments, so no votes are needed here today. These are informational items only. We do a typical sampling of those projects that are above 400,000 or more adjustments in this table. And we provide the one map link and a Google Street View for you to get acquainted with those sites as well. But we have the District 2 modifications begin on page 9, run through page 15. And so Mark Schultz, would you like to highlight any of the adjustments in District 2, please?
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Start off with the fact that we had many of our actions in September that were leading up to the October federal fiscal year and end of 2025 fiscal year and the start of the 2026 fiscal year, federal fiscal year. And many of these actions are work efforts that were done to secure funding in 2025 with our current projects. You'll see that in the first page on page 9 with the bottom of that page 9 leading into page 10 for a number of increases, decreases, and removal of program funds from I guess planned phases, project phases, so that those funds could be turned back to the reserve line item and then eventually out to other projects. At the bottom of page 10, we had an updated preliminary engineering estimate for the 120 fill slope. That is the Westport slide area there. We're working towards the completion of that project and advertisement of that project very soon as we clear up some right-of-way needs with Norfolk Southern Railroad. So we would anticipate that project to be in construction in 2026. Moving to page 11, we have a situation where we were updating funds between project phases. We have the 2003 over Doe Run 2, in which we were utilizing right-of-way funds to support utility updated estimate there. On page 12, going down there in the middle, we were balancing. This is actually in the middle of that page is HSIP spike funds. So we were awarded HSIP safety projects as discretionary funds. These are in addition to our typical allocation of funds. And with those, central office had asked that we make some adjustments to support those projects through 2026. So they took some of our 2025 money back and gave us 2026 funds for spike there. And then at the bottom of that page, we had a accrued unbilled cost for construction phase. This is the Ferensville Road SR 1001 improvement project in Clinton County that has been completed and is being finalized. So moving over to page 13, at the top, we were preparing a project, the SR 2008 over branch at Jacks Creek in Mifflin County. We're preparing that for a final estimate and a bid date. That project's been advertised now and estimated or advertised for a bid opening on December 11th. Bottom of that page, we had a project that was originally over-programmed, so we reduced highway funds from that program. It was over-programmed because it's a companion project with another Juniata 850 project that would be section A10. And we've experienced some cost savings. You'll see that on the next page for 850 A10. I believe at one time these were combined as one project, or we anticipated them to be constructed as one project, and that's why we had an over-programmed amount of over $1 million. That has been taken back to the reserve line item and will be distributed. You'll see, let me see here. We had the middle of page 14. We saw some de-obligations. De-obligations of federal funds would be for completed phases. We see construction phase and final design phase and utility phase in those de-obligations. That money gets returned back to the SEDA COG tip. And some of our biggest returns there were from the Port Royal Bridge over Norfolk Southern, the US 22 bridges in Juniata County that covered 6 locations. That work was completed last year. And Lewistown Valley Street project, which we had a utility savings for that project that exceeded $400,000. And then at the bottom of page 14, we have Mahatango Creek in Juniata, preparing that for a bid date in December 11th of 2025 as well. And then finally on page 15, at the top of that page, we have a opportunity when we have 100% state funded bridges to add a additional amount to that, as an item in that amount called a predetermined amount, a PDA, for miscellaneous bridge repair needs. What we do is we put that into a contract where we have bridge focused contract work, and we spread that out through the region. So in this project at the very top here for the 850 A08, we were able to add $200,000 to a miscellaneous bridge repair need, so that during bridge inspections throughout the summer, as things are discovered, we can rely on that line item and that charge code and that contract and contractor to go out and do miscellaneous repairs in any one of our 3 counties within the district, being Clinton, Mifflin, and Juniata. And then at the bottom of that page, we had a new phase was added to the tip because the previously planned this project to be an in-house project, but we've had workload issues and we had to send that out to a consultant. So we have a consultant review and a consultant design for final design on that project, the SR 120 over dry run. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that rundown.
Thank you.
In District 3, the adjustments begin on page 16 and run through page 23. And we'll offer it to Chris King. Would you like to highlight any of these, please?
Thanks, Steve. Echoing exactly what Mark said so well. Ours is primarily just cost accounting measures to prepare for the just lapsed end of the federal fiscal year. You look through them; it's mostly just fund swaps. There are a few minor cost increases and decreases to various phases. I'm not going to review them. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I would bring one major item to note, and that's on pages 21 and 22, which is the CSVT low bid increase. The low bid came in about 7 million over what we had programmed and approved for the project, and central office, who's funding the entire project anyway, they did cover that increase with spike funds from the secretary's discretionary pot. So CSVT is good to go. Give you an update on that in a little bit, but anyone has any specific questions as you read through those actions, feel free to ask me now or send me an email later, whatever you like. Steve?
Great, thank you, Chris. Just maybe if any of us are thinking about questions, page 20, the US 15 protect funded study for the slope stabilization work there. Is there kind of a rough timeline for that, or what's a typical study process for a project such as that?
I think the study phase, we're looking at about 12 to 18 months. I think I heard. I know they have set some like their devices to monitor the rate of movement of the slope. So there has been some field work. We just got a consultant on board within the last month or so. So I would say most of the field work and studies will happen, through 26, and then report and recommendations in early 27.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that. That's a program that was new to the bipartisan infrastructure law. Hopefully it will continue as we're combating a lot of flooding and other resiliency issues in the region. So appreciate that update.
Yep, that's the same program that funded about $7 million of embankment stabilization, I'll call it, and some stream repair work on Fishing Creek, just east of Bloomsburg along I-80. That was also Protect funded in the region. Came through on the interstate tip, but for the region.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions on modifications in District 3? Hearing none, thank you. We'll get to you in a moment or two then for the CSVT update. But also in our packet here, page 24, it's our typical holding place for projects that were approved previously. That's from the long-standing Milton Borough Access Road project. We've just been carried on that list. And then we have an item here in the next agenda item that we'll consider a new access road project. Then we would place that on this type of table as well, that tracking mechanism. And folks to see what's occurring with those, and we'll put updates in bold as they come together in the future, potentially for that project in Bloomsburg. So with that, we'll go ahead and just kick right into agenda item E. The materials begin on page 6 with some summary information and our typical checklist and some maps and other materials, but we'll like to turn it over to Betsy Lockwood to brief members on this.
Thank you. Are you able to pull up page 33 of the agenda? If not, that's okay.
Yep, let me get to the packet.
So good morning, everyone. I think most of you know me. My name is Betsy Lockwood, and I am Director of Project Developments and Grants for the Economic Development Program at SEDA COG. And I have here today Elena Hemphill. She's our grants coordinator. So she'll be working with me on ARC grants. So as a local development district for the Appalachian Regional Commission, we identify and develop projects for the Appalachian for ARC consideration. And I'm here today to discuss the Fort McClure Boulevard ARC Local Access Road Project. The detailed map there is on the screen and can be also found on page 33 of your packet. DCD has invited a full application for $1,361,093. The application is due December 19th and requires the MPO to add this project to the TIP should they be awarded funding. The town of Bloomsburg is proposing to make significant improvements to State Route 11 and then construct a 1,200 linear-foot access road to serve the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds, which is about 227 acres. There are significant traffic congestion issues and safety challenges that occur during major events, such as the Bloomsburg Fair and other events that are held there throughout the year. The town will construct the roadway with 4 12-foot lanes. There's a question on the signal at that intersection. A temporary signal was included in the original cost estimate, which is how our cost was derived for the pre-application or executive summary. However, the design requires a permanent traffic signal, so they're trying to work through that at this point. The temporary signal was okay by PennDOT. The issue is that one of the 2 left turn lanes would need to be barricaded when it does not have a light. The Bloomsburg Fairgrounds hosts events throughout the year. They draw hundreds of thousands of visitors, the most prominent of being the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds. And what makes this project attractive to the Appalachian Regional Commission is the tourism funds that come from these events that are being held. At present, the routing of vehicles into the fairgrounds during these peak high traffic times is confusing. Often directing drivers along white hashed lanes and lacking clear delineation or flow guidance. The heavy traffic and lack of clear direction have some serious safety challenges and can limit the number and timing of people getting in and out of the fairgrounds. They completed a traffic study that was recently reviewed by PennDOT and has confirmed the need to enhance this traffic flow on Route 11. The town has been able to check off all the items on the SEDA COG MPO checklist, which is also included in your packet, including the coordination, engineering, and budget costs. Match in the amount of $75,000 is secured from the town of Bloomsburg, primarily for the design. And I will turn things over to Lisa Dooley, Bloomsburg Town Manager, who can provide further information on the project.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy. I think you really covered the project area and the scope of the project really well. The one thing that we're hoping to do is also align it with PennDOT's improvements to Route 11 in that area. There's going to be expansion on Route 11, as Betsy mentioned, and just trying to get the traffic into the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds safer and also more efficient. If anyone traveled to the Covered Bridge Festival, you know that traffic not only backs up here in Bloomsburg, but also several other municipalities are also impacted by the fair events. So Town Council has been working with the Bloomsburg Fair, and they're both in agreement. We've had support letters from Linda Schlegel-Culver's office as well. Multiple meetings, even with Ledbetter. So we've really tried to advertise this project and try to get the funding for it. It's something that we know we need to improve. Anyone going to the Bloomsburg Fair knows that the barricades on the roadways are not fully compliant. Anyone coming in from out of state or new to the fairgrounds might not be familiar with our traffic pattern, which isn't really the best. So yeah, we're just looking to improve the area, hoping we get the ARC money. At this point, we do have our solicitor lined up to assist with the land swap. So the area that is gray there on the screen, we would have to have the Bloomsburg Fair relay that to us. And then the old Fort McClure Boulevard, we're looking to relay that back to the Bloomsburg Fair. So we're hoping for the ARC funds, as Betsy mentioned. The 1.3 million was discussed. We'll have to go into a little bit more further detail if the $500,000 add for the permanent single is added in the application, or if not, taken out of the town's liquid fuels fund. So that is something new that just happened this Monday, but we're willing to tackle that and get through it. Thank you.
We would be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Yes,
I noticed that in this plan, and that's a great plan for exiting and allowing them to go into 80 and 11 and so forth. How is that going to change coming into the fair? You're removing a lot of that pavement coming in at the old entrance, as the entrance changing.
Yep. So the entranceway, basically the old Fort McClure Boulevard would no longer be, so even the entrance coming in would change. That roadway for the local municipality would be a permanent relocation, just when entering onto Route 11. But if you go further into the scoped area, the traffic pattern getting into the fairgrounds, they are not going to be changing the main entranceway into the fair. So if you are familiar with the fair layout, the entranceway of getting traffic off of Route 11 and having them go onto the turn and having 2 lanes to approach the entranceway, and I think there's 4 gates to get into the fair, that is not going to change.
I was wondering because I noticed on the map itself, on the plan, it shows the removal of that paved area coming in from Route 11 where presently is the entrance. And that made me question, you know, if they're gonna remove that pavement, there won't be a drive there. And I may be confusing you, but that's what I see on the map.
It'd be relocate a little bit east here, as the schematic shows, and there'll be that inbound lane. The first lane you would come to if you're coming off the ramp. And then there'd be dual left turns coming out and a right turn lane exiting as well. But I think there'll still be options from coming off of the 42 ramp as well, as far as I know, but there'll be that primary single lane coming in if you're coming to the realigned Fort McClure Boulevard.
I was thinking the other map.
So on page 34.
Yeah, color coded, so that the yellow.
Yeah. So there, the yellow is your incoming at the realigned Fort McClure Boulevard. And the blue would all be your exiting from there.
Where the yellow would be. Other one could be.
Is the question,
Yes.
and I think I might be missing the question, is the question cycling the traffic off of Route 11 or cycling the traffic from Fort McClure into the fairgrounds?
Well, coming from Route 11 into the fairgrounds, I see now on the second map page that single lane to Fort McClure is an entrance, I guess during the morning, and then it becomes a 4-lane exit for departure. Or, I'm sorry, we still have a single lane entrance, but 3-lane departure. But that takes everything down to Fort McClure area versus where you used to come in, and I guess that'll be cut off. Because you're removing the existing pavement. The old entrance.
Yeah. And part of
I
the
get
ARC, part of the ARC, and Betsy, you might be able to better explain this, but it's my understanding part of the ARC is once we have a new roadway in, we can no longer use the existing roadway. So that's why that would be removed and repurposed.
Okay, thank you.
As part of the traffic study, was there determination of the LOS level? And as a result of the improvements, I would assume the LOS level would be greater.
Lisa, do you know the answer to that?
Can you use the terms for the LOS? I might know the answer. I'm just not familiar with the LOS.
What was there a determination of the LOS level before the proposed improvements and then an anticipated LOS level after the improvement as part of the study?
So the traffic delay
Level of service.
level of service.
Yeah, so we had throughout town, and I think this ties into the question, we had the retiming of all of our traffic lights. So we do have those synchronized now with the last project we did with the Arley retiming, if that helps.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
And this would
Yep.
negate, if you've been here, they have law enforcement personnel and now flagger force, directed traffic, but if the temporary signal goes in during these major events, that'll certainly help you with your labor another time, that is right, Lisa?
Yes, correct. So right now we do contract out all of the flag enforcement. We do that for 2 events now, for the Fair Week and then also for Covered Bridge. We do 4 p.m. all the way to closing to get the traffic out on Route 11 safely. Before that, we were using our own personnel in our police department. So the town does pay $15,000 a year for flagger enforcement training. And it would be nice not to have, any personnel, whether it's contracted out or staff personnel out on a interstate highway. And going back to the traffic signal question, the next light that it would be closest to this would probably be, I would probably give a 1/4 mile away on Leonard Street. So that if anyone is familiar with the layout of Bloomsburg, that would be the next traffic light that the municipality owns and operates in Bloomsburg.
And the request is to, add this project to the tip, should it be awarded funding from the operational commission. It's a good sign that the project was invited for, a full application by the SED, so, we're hopeful that it will receive funding.
Any other questions from members about the details related to the project or the motion? I know there's some newer members of the group, since the checklist was developed and we encountered some issues with some prior access road projects and that kind of lack of coordination sometimes would occur at a municipal level, but this one obviously has had that close coordination. It's been sponsored by the town and addressed those items that were on our table within the checklist. And this traffic signal thing kind of emerged at the end of the traffic impact study. And then now more recently with the dual left turn coming out, that one of the lanes would either have to be blocked, barricaded, overhead sign covered or removed, or full traffic signal installed versus a temporary. So that can kind of play out through this process as there's further evaluation, but as long as all parties are in agreement that there would need to be either a full signal or a closure of one of those left turn lanes when there's not a temporary signal in place.
Lisa, this is Bob Stout. Is the relationship with the Fair Board good enough that this can still move forward, or is this jammed up with the ongoing dispute?
Nope. I just reached out to Randy and Tim, and in my position as town manager, I still need to have that communication as Randy's, the commissioner in the county. So I will definitely say this is a project that both sides support. Just a month ago, we had our mayor and vice join the fair board at the fairgrounds to go over the project again. And we are, both parties remain interested in the project regardless of other things taking place.
Thank you, Lisa.
Are you talking about the racetrack? Is that,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I see that this is real important to the travel and tourism industry in the Duquesne region. It's something we definitely need. If you're ready for the motion, I'll be glad to make that motion, Steve.
Okay, sure. Any other discussion before acting on Bob's motion to approve?
I had a question. If it was awarded the ARC funding, what would be the tip amount if it was sent on to?
We would add whatever federal funds are ultimately approved. Hopefully, we get the full amount as it goes to DPD. And then the local funds would be shown as well, what the town's committing. But I don't think at this stage there's anything additional, but the town identify there'd be general funds or maybe liquid fuels monies they could put in.
Committed, yeah, they've committed.
Thank you.
That's for that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be looking for the additional any tip funds for it. The one thing I will kind of revisit on, just to make it clear, the traffic signal in the way of the project, we were kind of going back and forth with PennDOT and the counts, and basically the counts really derive if it's a temporary or permanent. And I think as, you know, the discussions get further along, you know, that head nod or the approval really has to come from PennDOT if it's going to be permanent or temporary for us to kind of navigate through. But the two events that I had mentioned aren't the only events at the fairgrounds. So we're hoping that, you know, PennDOT throughout this project does make it to be a permanent light, but we still didn't get enough counts to get it to be a permanent. So I think there's still that ongoing discussion just to clear up that temporary and permanent light discussion.
Any other questions? Anyone online with any questions? Okay. If not, we have a motion from Bob to approve adding this project to the tip, contingent upon all the other approvals coming in place, you know, as we have that
I
disclaimer.
second that motion.
Greg has the second. Thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Thank you very much.
We'll go ahead and put that on our typical listing, as I mentioned earlier, and usually is it end of January, probably, Betsy, you'll hear from DCD, or is it vary? Everything's, yeah, it's kind of
It's funny you should ask. We usually hear in the spring,
great.
so who knows what's gonna happen in 2026, but fingers crossed we hear something in March, April timeframe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're up to item F, and Chris, if you're able, you provide the summary points we have here on this slide for the CSVT project updates, please.
You bet, Steve. Looks like you have pretty much what I sent. The structures contract is virtually, you know, I won't go through the individual bullet points, but it's about 95% complete, and it'll be totally done by the end of the year. So again, the structure contract has been all the bridges and the noise walls for the southern section, including the connector ramps over 11 and 15. So virtually done. The paving contract was, as I said before, was let, and the low bid has been accepted and awarded to Trumbull and Golden Triangle. And that, again, in addition to paving, you know, the main line and the 61 connector, it includes ramps, but also stormwater measures, drainage facilities, guide rail, signals. This project, we led it with a number of signal improvements on Route 11, the strip there through Shamokin Dam. It also includes the highway lighting and the structures that hold the signs, either on the side or in the median. There's a number of local road adjustments, again, the noise wall. One that wasn't included in the structures contract is near the southern part of the old trail. And then the Cortland Drive connector will be finished with this contract. And in addition to the signals on the strip 11 and 15, that's also going to be resurfaced. So the schedule remains opening CSVT in the mainline section in fall of 27, and then the 61 connector the next year. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Just a quick comment. I may have raised it in the last meeting, but Matt Beck had indicated there'll be traffic counts in 2026 taken. That'll establish a baseline, you know, ahead of the opening of the southern section, and we can see what changes have occurred since the last round on the northern section flows. So just stay tuned for that. I'm not sure what month that'll occur, but sometime in 2026, we do expect new traffic counts for the corridor.
Okay. Yep. That is true. And we'll make sure we update everybody on those when we get them done.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Chris? Appreciate it. Thanks. Lots of great activity, and thanks for getting the statewide managed funds for the cost increase on the low bid. So thank you.
Yep.
Next, item G of our agenda. And so that's our typical unified planning work program, staff activity report. Several items in here are kind of covered on other agenda pieces, or will be a little bit later today. So I won't dwell on much within our activity report that begins on page 40. I'll just do a note about the annual listing of obligated projects. Those are usually due by the end of December each year. So we'll have that for you at the January meeting and publish that to our website so you can see all the obligations of federal funds that occurred during federal fiscal year 2025. And we'll give that snapshot and publicize that on our website as consistent with federal regulations. The strategic plan update, since we're not done with this year, we'll wait until the year closes and kind of do that summary of activity on the implementation of strategic plan measures. We'll bring that for the January meeting as well. And on page 42, just be remiss if I did mention anything federal funding related. I all been seeing that the budget was at least taken through January for most federal programs. So that'll need to be picked back up. But then also next year, September 30th is when the bipartisan infrastructure law expires. So a lot of activity starting to churn in Congress on reauthorization proposal. So there's committee work and markups and all that kind of stuff. So we'll report more as it comes together. We don't really know, what path that's going to take. If it's going to be pretty flat, just some moderate increases. If there's going to be dramatic changes to the programs, elimination of some of these discretionary programs, more coming the formula routes. And so as that comes together more completely, the picture, we'll make sure to share that with members. But probably in the spring, we would anticipate at least the House probably passing its version of the next transportation reauthorization bill. Then on page 45, want to mention under the AMPO membership, a lot of key federal updates, coming out of the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, and lots of good listening sessions, webinars, and everything that we're accessing there. We're really leveraging a lot from that membership and connecting to our peers. But wanted to highlight that Don Keel was selected as a member of the leadership team for AMPO's interest group. It covers GIS and data items. So he'll be helping as they design their quarterly webinars and be responsible for identifying speakers for one of those during the year. So we're going to have that connection to this national group as part of their interest groups. There we get AICP credits. Those of us that have that credential, we're getting the webinars and a lot of value from. So to note that. And then on page 46, we had discussed we have an intern for Bucknell University working closely with Sam, and it should be available through next spring. We'll report more soon. A lot of this stuff has been focused on the sidewalk inventory to complete for the entire region. So we'll have report on that probably in the early part of the new year, and maybe like an instant application to share those results.
Steve, real
Yes.
quickly, on that same page, on the trail demand story map,
Yes.
on the trail counters, I see the report went out for Bloomsburg. Do you know what the status is of the ones in Monterey County at Hess and at Hopewell?
Yes, so we'll be going to collect those here shortly. We've got some other kind of field work and data work, but we'll retrieve those and then we'll download the data and share that back with you and eventually pull that into another round of the story map. So the difference with those is they're not automated. So for Bloomsburg, fortunately, we had those we can access online anytime, see what the numbers are and some snapshot charts to share with the town. Those ones are manual, so we got to actually retrieve the units, bring it back here and import the data and get that in raw form, and then we'll polish it up, but we can share with you all the entire data as well.
Thank you.
So
To the best of my knowledge, nobody shot them or stole them or anything, so.
Great, yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised they survived in there. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Not sure what's wrong with teenagers these days.
Yeah. So far, yeah, we've been good on the vandalism front, so hopefully that continues.
Good. Thank you.
Sometimes you get some insect infestation or some spiders in there, but hopefully, yeah, all is good. And we also have gotten outreach recently from Professor Byler at Bucknell, wanted to take our data and see about seasonal adjustment factors for a research project. So we'll have that collaboration still as well, but we'll retrieve them, those ones, and then next we're going to go to mostly Juniata and Mifflin counties. We're working on getting agreements with the trail owners down there, and I think one in Snyder County, and potentially the Shikellamy Overlook Deer Trail as well, to get some counts, working through that with DCNR.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Our newsletter went out for the fall in October. Next issue will probably be January. If there's things any of you have at any point in time, any ideas, recommendations, changes, or features you think we should include, just let us know. But we're doing pretty well. 40% of the recipients have been opening those and clicking away on several of the links that we share. So January will probably be our winter edition. And Don Keel, I think you're online here and joining us. Would you like to give a update on the LTAP items, please?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Just very quickly, LTAP is the Local Technical Assistance Program. I think everybody pretty much knows that. And we coordinate classes across the MPO region that take place at various times in various locations. Most of the classes traditionally are organized and oriented towards safety or road improvements or maintenance. But especially since COVID, that's been changing a little bit, and the LTAP program leaders down out of Harrisburg have started to look into offering different kinds of classes that are designed to meet some of the new challenges maybe that have come out in the last few years. One of those is more organizational background and training and information for people who are public works leaders. So one of the new classes that they will be coming out with next year will be called Leadership Development for Public Works. And I'd certainly like to invite you to have your local municipal public works leadership, whether they're road superintendents or whatever the phrase might be, to sign up for that when it becomes available during the summer next year, most likely. However, before then, the LTAP folks would like SEDA COG to host the pilot implementation of that. And within the last couple of weeks, I attended the first sort of rollout of part of the class content, and I was very impressed with the person who will be leading the class and also with the content itself. I'd just like to say that while it's very relevant and valid for public works people, it's generic enough, I guess I would describe it as something that could be very helpful and useful for people who maybe are planning directors or managers or even county commissioners to be interested in and attend. So what I'd like to invite everybody to consider is that if this goes through, we're just waiting on final approval from our leadership at SEDA COG. We're planning to host this class on, it looks like it'll be Wednesday, the 14th of January. We want to have about 15 to 20 people attend if possible. I think it would be very useful for any of you to sign up and attend or invite somebody from your organization. So if there's any interest in that, I can send on what the proposed agenda would be, and I'd certainly be very willing to sign anybody up and keep you posted on what that will be. It'll be a half-day class, probably in the afternoon. But I think LTAP is very excited about moving into this new area of emphasis on the organizational side, and there will be more to come of similar type of training, stepping outside their usual places. So please contact me or let me know if you have any interest in that class, and I'll be very glad to help. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Other items here are typical in your packet. Poured out on traffic impact study, highway occupancy permit submission, And then the TA set aside status updates for the already approved projects that are in development. So, any questions on any of those? Yes, Bob?
North Branch Canal Trail and the levee, any updates on, do you know, is Randy at the Borough Central Project lead for this? I'm wondering if the DCNR grant has been extended, because that was the key match or one of the key matches for this.
I'm not positive. I think so. That's my assumption, but, is there something, they're running into an expiration of the DCR fund?
Yeah, I guess I'll circle back to Randy. Would you say that Daniel Burr is the lead or more that SEDA COG is?
Oh, that's, yeah, fully within they're the sponsor. The MPO reviews, evaluates, recommends, then they get selected, and then it's the project sponsor working in conjunction with the PennDOT project management team and their engineers. And I know that's hit some issues over time, obviously, but they're the ones be doing all the submissions and paperwork and approval. At the current let date, we were showing the tracking table was late December of this year. So I'm assuming it can still continue on, or they'll get any extension through West or whoever they need to.
All right, thank you.
But Chris, anything further that you were showing or hearing from Aaron Christ on that you know of any hiccups or delays with the North Branch Canal Trail TA set aside project?
I was just looking it up while you were talking, Steve, just to see if we had a construction plan in to check it and advertise date and all that. So give me 1 second here.
Yeah, thank you. That's the DCNR or something else.
Yeah,
The C2P.
we had I think there were some delays locally, so we pushed it to basically we pushed it to the end of 26. They're apparently going to be able to get the construction plan in July of 26 now. I can ask Aaron for some updates on what's been happening. Get that to you and Bob if you want.
Sure, yeah, whenever you're able. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything additional for any of the normal progress reporting? Okay. If not, we're on to item H, and we often try to have an update maybe once a year from Rabbit Transit on the stop hopper micro transit service within the region. And we're pleased that David Juba, planning manager with Rabbit Transit, is able to join us here today. And so I will defer off to David and allow him to screen share when I stop sharing here in a second. So it should be entirely yours, David, to share your PowerPoint with us, please.
Alrighty. Good morning and a happy Friday all. So hopefully my audio is coming through all right, and you should see a presentation.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right. I always want to make sure the technical items are sorted before I blabber for 10 minutes and nobody heard me, so thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to pop on and talk a little bit about our stop hopper service that operates in some of our northern counties in the Rabbit Transit service region. We have several zones of operation, and I'll get into those a little bit later, but before getting too far into the weeds, I like to always start with a basic framework of what is the stop hopper or what is micro transit. So many people are more familiar with public transit from the lens of those big heavy-duty buses rolling around on fixed schedules and cycles and things like that. You think of maybe SEPTA or Harrisburg or places like that when you think of them. Then on the other side of things, you tend to see paratransit services, which are more specialized, specialty funding, those large body-on-chassis black and white buses you may see around assisting individuals. But there usually is this gap from a transit lens. There's usually this middle ground of service where it doesn't quite meet. It doesn't have the funding stream that would make sense for one, or it doesn't have the demand or demographics to meet the other. And we've historically had challenges in meeting that middle ground. Well, that's where the microtransit service came into play. We started this service back in 2018. And we've operated several zones, including several in the north that I'll get into in a little bit. But generally speaking, the philosophy with microtransit is it's an on-demand service model. So basically, it's when you go to book, the amount of time it takes for you in terms of wait and travel is dependent on the needs of that local community. So if you're going at a busier time, that could be adjusted or modified to longer or shorter. It's very technology driven. So for those that may be familiar with dial-a-ride services back in the 90s, very similar in nature, same day booking, things like that. The major difference between now and then is that technology gap where we have more access to information through smart applications and digital resources that people have at their fingertips, the responsibility and the independent booking component of, can I book it on my time? Do I know what that time is? I can get updates through an app, notifications, so on and so forth. And then the big thing that makes it cost effective for us in comparison to other maybe broader service models like TNCs, such as the example of being like Uber and Lyft, is that it's zonal, or there's a limited area of which the service is available. We are limited in terms of available resources, in terms of drivers and vehicles, so it's one of our means of constraining what we have to make both the resources go further, but also maximize the availability for those riders and improve the quality of service. So I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but basically our model started it back in 2018 in our York service area and then has expanded since then as a tool in our toolbox of mobility ecosystem expansion. Again, I noted it earlier, but designed to fill traditional gaps that we couldn't meet via our other modes. And as of today, we're actually operating 7 microservices across 5 counties. Many of those services actually operated in the northern counties of our service. So apologies, some of these visuals might be a little blurry, but I've been scrambling to update this slide deck since we actually did a new service or system deployment on November 17th. So this past Monday, we transitioned between service providers, which from the user side, they had to make the transition between different apps, but generally speaking was a pretty smooth one. But all that stated, apologies for some ugly visuals here, but bear with me. So how the stop hopper actually works is you would book, wait and travel is dependent on demand. So booking can be done in several models or several opportunities. So you can book via a smart app. So download an app on your phone, search Stop Hopper in your iOS or App Store. You can call into our customer service and book it through a customer service rep. You can use a website browser, which would operate very similar to the smart app. The difference is you don't get those notifications, which is a convenience factor. And then, of course, one of the things that we sort of promote is that if the bus isn't busy, which is rare these days, but if it isn't busy, it sits at several terminal locations, usually major medical or shopping centers within the service area, that you can walk up and hail the vehicle. In terms of the fare payment side of things, it can be paid, the service can be paid for with cash. We have a mobile app in terms of token transit, which will actually be changing to a new solution in early 2026. So stay tuned for more info. And then credit card option, you can link a credit card to your account directly and pay for it as you go. For another point of reference, the current fare is $2. So for the average rider, it's very cost effective comparative to alternative options that may be available in the area, if there is anything else available in the area. But again, along with that fare change with the mobile app payment transition, the fare will also be seeing a minor uptick from $2 to $2.50 in early 2026. So again, stay tuned for more updates. It's a little ahead of public release of information, but we will be seeing some transition to that fare rates from approximately $2 to $2.50, which is not significant overall. Obviously, we are aware that impacts the rider's capability to pay for these trips, but we haven't had a fare change in relation to this since 2018. So we are very mindful to make those changes marginally and over a long period of time. We don't anticipate any other changes coming anytime soon. So in terms of the service areas and purposes, I'm going to skip a little bit, but generally speaking, our micro has been modeled around 3 service design concepts. First last mile solutions for some of our fixed services. That's where that East York area comes in, which again isn't really applicable to your region, but I always like to point it out where we started. Transit propensity analysis, just a fancy way of saying, is there a latent demand that demographics don't indicate that may be suitable for fixed or other services? And then the unserved suburban or rural needs, which are applicable primarily in relation to our northern services, Sunbury, Selinsgrove, Danville, Bloomsburg, Lewisburg, Milton, and Berwick, Bloomsburg are examples of that. And just to highlight, these services have been operational for quite a while. The earliest one starting in the Sunbury and Selinsgrove area back in December of 21, and our most recent expansions occurring in Berwick, Bloomsburg in October of 2024, with even further a minor addition in early 2026 to expand to East Berwick and Beach Haven, so actually towards the county, I think it's Luzerne, to the east there. So a very minor bump out. So in terms of goals and KPIs, I always include this slide because I like to make it a point to say, like, we started this with an objective, which is to say, the goal statement ultimately being expanding our mobility ecosystem, filling gaps where we ultimately couldn't provide our traditional services. And then, of course, we always want to focus on, are we being effective, efficient with the service? So we set passengers per revenue hour targets, operating cost per revenue hour targets, so on and so forth. They're all listed here. But my key point to make with this is that we've hit and or exceeded those targets over the last several years. And even with the initial deployments of the northern service areas, we were hitting those and achieving those within a month to 2 months, which from a traditional transit lens, when we deploy new services, it's traditionally 3 to 6 months of sort of a build up to people even becoming familiar, adapting, understanding it. Whereas micro has a very quick deployment and adoption transition, which is always exciting. But I will highlight, and I did put the little blurb in the bottom right there, that we haven't really reevaluated these targets for several years, and it is on the radar for the upcoming year to also do that. But again, just kind of keeping in a framework that we've accomplished and achieved what we set out to, and they've been stable and productive. And everybody always loves data, or at least let me phrase that, I love data, so I like to throw numbers in these. And just to reinforce what I was highlighting there, we do have those targets related to the riders per revenue hour, op cost per revenue hour, ride sharing, ride ratings. Anything in green just indicates that it is achieving or exceeding those targets, which, again, not terribly surprising. But one thing I did want to do, which I haven't done in the past, is sort of do a quick comparison between those northern service areas and our southern service areas. So as you'll see, the north actually operates consistently at higher performance on average than our overall system, which would include those East York and Chambersburg areas. So yeah, just quick point of reference. And again, these slides, the slide deck is available. I did send it to Steve, so I'm not going to drill into it too much because I know it's a lot to cover on a happy Friday. So the only other thing I would highlight on this slide, which I keep and I'm sooner or later going to have to get rid of it, is I always like to make this because it's kind of interesting. That visual on the right with the red line is showing our stop hopper service growth and stability during the COVID pandemic period. I like to show this because of the fact that the only service that we had from a public transit lens, including our paratransit, our microtransit, our fixed route, our commuter bus services, the only one that saw stability and growth during the pandemic was the microtransit. No fuel added, i.e. no additional vehicles or drivers added, but just stability and growth on a service that is stable and existing. So just sort of interesting to see that stability occurred during a period where there was a lot of instability across our other modes of service, which sort of showed the importance and value to the community that it played. So apologies, these slides are probably a little blurry because I tried to pull these yesterday and throw them in because I always get the question of how is it affecting my community directly? So and I should jump back one slide. There's about 3,500 rides that are occurring on the average month. So when you break that down into a daily basis, we're talking like 170 to 175 riders per day, per month within those areas in the north. And this, while it's a very ugly visual, I want to show that it is a broad community benefit. You have a very wide array of origins and destinations, which are denoted by, well, you can't see many of the green ones because it's how the overlay works in GIS, but the red and green dots in the background are indicating your origin and destination, so your pickup and drop off points. And I did try to put some cluster bubbles into there to sort of show grouping of information, but again, it's a very poor visual and I do apologize on that front. But as you can see, wide array of utilization. This is the Lewisburg Milton. A lot of downtown clusters traveling to medical facilities, grocery facilities. Those are probably the two most common utilizations, but we do have a broad array of users that also ride the services for employment or civic service access, such as post office, library, senior centers, elements like that. So I'm going to go through each slide. I have one per the service areas in the north, just so you can get a very quick visual. But again, I did send these to Steve prior to the meeting, so they should be accessible should you have interest in looking at them in a little more detail. And of course, always willing to have quick conversations to drill into specific townships, areas, partner areas like the universities, should there be interest in talking those through. Then going into the Sealands Grove Sunbury service area, very large density in the Sunbury side of things, branching out into the largely into those shopping corridors that you can see over here. And apologies if you can or cannot see my mouse sort of circling that Route 11 corridor. But as you can see, very broad array of utilization and spread of use case. So I'm going to sit on the slide for just a hot second and then move along. Danville, and I did, so just as a point of reference, Danville and Bloomsburg are connected one service area, but being that is such a large geographic area for a quick visual, I did try to drill into those distinct and separately. So this one I think is a little easier for me to call out and apologize. I apologize in that I'm not local to the northern areas, but there's a large share of use of access for grocery and downtown residential in this area. You have the Geisinger Medical Facilities here, which is another major generator. And of course you have several shopping centers and several other Geisinger medical facilities out towards the end, towards Ridgeville there. But again, good array of utilization across most of the area. Things, again, very large cluster in the downtown urban area. You do have some towards the fairground side of things, which again, we have supported with our stop hopper service access to the fairgrounds during the fair activities. So always appreciate providing opportunities for partnership in that regard. Of course, the university as well has some impact in this southern side of their campus area. And then, of course, grocery and recreational towards the Walmart and shopping centers out towards the northwest corner there. And then Berwick, we have a pretty broad array for Berwick with several major shopping center destinations being quote unquote hubs to that. But of course, several blobs of origin destination points sort of clustered throughout the whole region. So again, broad range of use. And in terms of questions, I'm happy to sort of pause and open up for questions. I do know that Steve had sent me some preliminary notes about Q&A or items he thought may come up during a conversation in terms of like community response, surveys, things like that. Happy to talk through those as well. Unfortunately, the surveys that I have most recently, we usually do stop hopper surveys in pairing or in conjunction with our paratransit every 2 years. So they're back 2024 data. But I do have something that I can absolutely share in terms of comments and quotes, but I'll pause before we get into that. So again, thank you for the opportunity to present and open any questions.
Any questions from the floor in the room or online for David before we dig into some of the kind of pre-identified questions? Okay, thanks. Go ahead, please.
Yep.
Jeff Eisman.
Hey, this is Jeff from PA Silk and Transportation Alliance. Sorry I had to get on a little later, had another meeting. Question, I'm glad that you're expanding the services in those areas. It's definitely needed. Are any of those services in, we'll say off hours, like evenings, weekends, holidays? And I'm thinking that's not just accessing anything, whether it's disability employment or senior health care or anything like that. I don't know if you could comment on that.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. That's one of the things I don't really cover in my slides, so apologies. So the service is actually operated a Monday through Friday service model, so weekday only, 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Again, it goes into that same philosophy that we have with the zonal or geographic limitations, similar in nature with sort of the time and date limitations, so that we can provide the most service within a dedicated window. And we do find, or I should pause and back up a second, we originally had the microtransit service operating 7A to 7P, and then found that we were having issues with that start of day and end of day pickup drop off window, specifically the start of service or start of employment for a lot of people, which is why we did modify it to a 6:30A to 6:30P. We have had a lot of feedback in terms of interest in expansion of hours as well as expansion to weekend services. The challenge ultimately is the limited constraints, and not to get too far into the weeds with it, because I know one of the questions that's coming up or likely to come up is local match. We are finding that an interesting scenario with the Northern Microtransit that we began operating under, and I know Rich is on here, so he might be able to speak to this clearer, but we had a local legislator that was a very large proponent of expansion or addition to the service in the north, and we had something that's rare, which is 100% state contribution to begin and operate the service, which traditionally the state does not do something like that, like it is an abnormality. So all that being stated, the service got kicked off fully funded, and then of course after several years of that piloting stage, we do go to the default local match requirements, which is traditionally 15%. And of course, that's been something that we've been challenged with trying to maintain the service going forward for some of the areas up north. So that being stated, I think where we're at right now from an agency perspective is stabilize and can validate that we'll have commitment over the next several years. And then once that commitment is stabilized, looking for opportunities to expand based on community needs. But ultimately, the amount of service available is dependent on the local support, for better or for worse on that regard.
Okay, and one other question for, I think we actually had this on the SRTA advisory call. If someone lives in, let's say, Bloomsburg, but let's just say they're a veteran and they need to go to, we'll say Wilkes-Barre, is that something that this trip would be able to provide, or would they have to get other means? Because I know Luzerne's like not in the Rabbit area, but they're starting in the Rabbit area. They live there, but they need to go somewhere else to get certain services.
Yeah, so in terms of what's available for the stop hopper, that wouldn't be within our range of operation because the Wilkes-Barre
Okay.
area is outside of the zone. But that being stated, especially, I mean, we often have alternative programs and opportunities through veteran grants and or other funding streams with our paratransit services. The major difference with that is that it's, again, that sort of day ahead booking, and it is a slightly different service model.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the questions.
Bob, please. You have a question from the room here, David?
Yeah, David, I'm Bob Stout. I'm with the Montour Rec Commission, Montour County. Is this something that we can share with county commissioners and the Chamber of Commerce and other partners, or is this more of a confidential update?
No, this is absolutely open to share. I come to these meetings with public information, so anything that's in the presentation is absolutely open to be shared. And again, always open to do, individualized or specific targeted presentations. I know recently we had some presentations with local community stakeholders in one of the northern service areas where I was able to drill in and be a little more targeted. Also, time limitations aside, I can pull open a GIS map and sort of drag and drop through points of interest, be a little more tailored to the area. So you can certainly share this. Steve does have this information, but always willing to have those individual engagements. And my contact information is included as well on the last slide.
Thank you, David. So specifically, we'll share it to Chris Berlant with the Columbia Montour Chamber of Commerce. This will be helpful to get the local stakeholders and elected officials in those counties to continue with the maps for Danville, Bloomsburg, and Berwick were real helpful. So thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, they were helpful.
Yeah, when we share the ticker, we'll have this as part of the presentations overall that can be accessed. And if you need anything additional, just let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What are the 5 northern counties you serve?
Yep. So we operate in Union, Snyder, Montour, Columbia, and Northumberland.
Rabbit's contracted by all those counties to do the shared ride. And then as David mentioned, when this pilot program was kickstarted by State Senator Gordner, they looked at the 3 zones that have developed and then some expansions of them over time within those counties.
Union, Snyder, Northumberland. What are the other 2?
Columbia, Montour.
Yep. I think I heard somebody else answer the question, but yeah, Union, Snyder, Columbia, Montour, and Northumberland.
Yeah, maybe it's part of your surveying, David, but in terms of just means of communication and how people learn about it, have you found something that's most effective? Is it more kind of the word of mouth, the specific tailored programming to get riders?
That's a great question. A lot of the people that we coordinated with had found out through our services, word of mouth is a very popular resource in the northern areas, but we did have a lot of users who had used paratransit and use it for alternative purposes where it's more cost effective for them to use like microtransit to a medical appointment rather than doing the day ahead booking or elements like that. We do have a good social media / digital presence. I do think that, and to back up a second, I always find it interesting because the digital presence has a much more successful deployment than I would anticipate for a broad array of audiences. And by that, I mean, we have probably 90 to 92% of our bookings, and this is on the new system, which is exciting because I can drill into it quicker. 90 to 92% of our bookings are through the app. So I think as people become familiar with it, the digital mode is probably our best resource. But yeah, I mean, word of mouth was a very big undertaking. And it also just helps that the bus is circulating around the community and you see a stop hopper and you sort of ask a question, what is that? Why is it here? And our drivers are incredibly friendly. They'll open the door, you can have a quick conversation. We put flyers down in the communities that we're servicing when we do make service changes or had deployments. But yeah, the word of mouth was a surprisingly successful element at play there.
Dave, Craig Moulter, Montour County. I know we've been kind of promoting the shopper hopper through the Human Services Department coalition with all those folks that are in need of everything, basically. Transportation is a big issue, and in the Danville area, that has been very helpful. And we thank you
No,
for
and I'm
that
absolutely
service.
happy to hear it. And I have it open and I didn't want to share it because, and I will share it because I think it's important to note it. So we do the survey, like I said, every 2 years or so. And this was the most recent one in 2024 where we had a sort of a response element in the survey. Give us like, what does it mean to you and how important is it? And these are all responses that we got back. I think there's like 140 to 180. I can't remember the exact number. And I'm quick scrolling, but my point is, the key thing is a lot of people see this as a point of access for no other alternative transportation, single vehicle households that don't have an alternative, medical conditions don't allow people to drive. And of course, this is for all of our areas, but I would say that there's a good share of responses from the north. And apologies for the quick scrolling because I was looking at these during an earlier part of the meeting trying to find area-specific notes. And basically, like, it's their only way to get around, or their basic way to get around and how they get to work. Quick scrolling, apologies. My family lives in the Danville region. I'm in Sealands Grove. It gives me a bit of freedom because otherwise I have no alternative and I would have lost my job. Before it came, I was overpaying for alternatives. It's changed my life, made it easy. Like it has had an incredibly positive, which just not to say it in a negative fashion, but from a transit lens, we tend to always hear the bad and what's not going well. I feel like from the stop hopper side, we've had a very positive community engagement and experience making transportation easier in those areas.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, what's the potential for expansion into other adjacent counties that are abutting the current service area? What could be done to initiate that, to move it down into Mifflin County, say? Or is that not a possibility?
We never say no. It's in our core values. We always look to get to yes. But again, I think where we're at right now with the stop hopper, especially in some of our northern counties where that local match component has been challenging at times, is sort of stabilizing the current resources and making sure that we have local commitments for a period of time. Traditionally, when we do start into the local match and local commitment considerations, we're trying to pair with county partners on like a 3-year basis at minimum so that we do have that stability and we don't have to, I don't want to say threaten, but basically look in that scenario where there's an opportunity that service could be either reduced or removed. We never want to put something on the road that we have to take out. And ultimately our goal is to support the community needs. So if there is a need and there's a financial support to get that local match in place, I think it's absolutely a conversation to be had. That being said, I mean, that local match is a small, and you're familiar with other projects with highway, and you guys are on SEDA COG's meeting, so you're familiar with that stuff. It's a very small local commitment to get a very large potential state and federal commitment to that project. So not to throw numbers to it, but for the sake of like simple math, if we're looking at like a $75 to $80 operating cost per revenue hour at a 7.5 for local match, you'd be looking at like $5 to $6 for $75 worth of that hourly cost, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
David, just as we talked earlier about having the maps available that we could share with our commissioners, would those survey results be able to be utilized as well? We know when we started this thing and we initially got Montour County to agree to some shared funding, it's always been a contentious situation. I think the more support we can show from the public, the easier it would be to make those cost shares more viable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the email that I had there, or sorry, the Word document I had open is absolutely something we can share. I've actually shared it with several of the Northern partners who have looked for that kind of material. We don't shy away from it. Some of the comments in there are negative, most are positive. I mean, this is the feedback we're getting from the community, and we want to be transparent and balanced in what we're showing.
Sure.
So yeah, absolutely. I blabbered a bit there. Apologies, the coffee's getting to me, but yeah.
And I think Rich has mentioned in the past, your PR team's looking at maybe some additional graphics or infographics and things like that, maybe for the stop hopper and other service that you provide. So as those things come together, along with the other kind of surveying that's been done in the past, we do our part in making sure we share that with all parties.
Yep, and as I had noted earlier this week, we did officially transition from our old software solution to the new, which, like I said, for the average rider meant just transitioning to a new app, and was generally a smooth go, which I will say that that's another benefit to the microtransit model, is that it has changed software providers several times over now and been very stable and successful. We had more riders on average for the several days this week after the deployment than we did for the prior month of October, like on average daily. So we didn't lose riders with it, is what I'm alluding to. If you start getting some negative comments, I don't anticipate them, but just FYI. But all that stated, since we're in that transitional process, there's a lot of recreation of materials and updates on the website to be coming. So absolutely happy to share.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, Sean has a question here as well.
No, just some comments, Steve. Sean McLaughlin, Union County. Fortunately, I'm in one of those counties where funding will match is also a challenge, as Greg said. But just the value of the service. I'm pulling up the Uber app right here, and to go 4 miles to my office from SEDA COG is $9.90 for Uber, and Stop Hopper is a great value at $2.50 a ride. And I think for a lot of people around this region, that's affordable. We're paying $9 to get 4 miles. It's not. So, again, just thanks to Rapid Transit for the service, and hopefully they stick around.
Well, we hope the same as well, and I'm glad to hear that there's a positive value to the community.
Great. Thank you. Any final questions or comments for David? Okay, thanks so much for the information. Really much appreciate it. Thanks, David.
Thank you all. Happy Friday.
You too. Start sharing screen again here as we return back to our main meeting PowerPoint guide. And we're on to agenda item I, that's the transportation alternative set aside project recommendations. As you see in the bullets here, we'll have a recommendation that came out from the project review committee that met on Tuesday this week. And within the packet on page 54 is the materials that Kristen's going to highlight.
So first, I want to thank everyone that participated in the review committee. We had 8 presentations over the course of the morning, which was followed by the review and discussion of the applications and the information provided in those presentations, followed by trying to reach a consensus on ratings and particular comments on each of the applications. So it was a long commitment of time for everyone, and I really appreciate you participating. As I mentioned at our last MPO meeting, all of the applications submitted were really great projects and strong contenders for potential funding. The committee, we therefore had a very difficult task ahead of them which we knew going in, and that was to provide the ratings and feedback, which will go to the state for consideration. These ratings will be submitted to PennDOT as for the MPO input for the statewide selection committee, and then we would anticipate that the final decisions are made at the statewide level, not from the MPO. They consider our input, but they also have their own priorities. And so final decisions we anticipate would be announced in the spring of 2026. So as Steve mentioned, on page 54 is these are organized just by, alphabetical county and municipality. But I will go through the ratings, starting with the top two projects, which were both rated 5 stars. Those were the Union County Trail Authority's Buffalo Valley Rail Trail US 15 crossing and Clinton County's SR 150 pedestrian safety improvement project. Both of these projects have been discussed here and in the planning and in the works for many years. The Union County Trail Authority project, the Buffalo Valley Rail Trail, after multiple discussions and years of planning with PennDOT, the design's finally been agreed upon that is acceptable to all parties. And so this will be a mid-block crossing with a raised pedestrian refuge and user-activated pedestrian signals. As far as I know, this might be the first one in Pennsylvania to do this. I could be wrong about that, but it seemed to be an innovative solution to the issue there. This does have a lot of multi-agency interest in it and will close one of Pennsylvania's top 10 trail gaps. So that'd be a huge win for the region if that would get funded. And the second 5-star rating was the Clinton County project, as I mentioned. Again, this is a project that's been in the works for a very long time. It began as a PennDOT Connects project, which led to a special study that was conducted through the MPO for the entire Hogan Boulevard area. This particular one is a phase 1, which will run from Flemington Borough to Bald Eagle Creek and will address significant pedestrian safety hazards by retrofitting the area with adequate facilities. As I mentioned, it was really tough ranking of the rest of them because they were all very good projects. So we had 4-star ratings. And in no particular order, those were Shamokin, Coltmont, East Buffalo, and Mifflin County. The Shamokin project is Independent Street Safety and Streetscape Enhancements Phase 3. And this is coming off the completion of their SS4A safety action plan and the letting of the first phase of the corridor project. So there's a lot of momentum to move projects forward. In Shamokin, some of the engineering and environmental work has already been done. Some of the design work has been completed. There's still some engineering work to be done, but it should be very deliverable. The Coltmont project also, like Clinton County, began with a PennDOT Connects outreach. And this actually, the Route 61 area, which is Chestnut Street and Coltmont, will have a full reconstruction by PennDOT in 2032. So this is kind of a perfectly timed improvement to pedestrian facilities and amenities in downtown Coltmont. And also they are going to be conducting a WalkWorks funded active transportation plan. So also they have that benefit there. East Buffalo is in the same situation as Coltmont. They are going to have future road reconstruction in this area. So this is the West Market Street area, and it's a kind of another retrofitting of streetscapes to accommodate pedestrians. And this project will expand linkages to downtown Lewisburg, local schools in the general area. And again, with the road reconstruction upcoming in the early 2030s, which sounds very far away, but it's not. It makes the time right for this project. And also, again, these 4 stars were in no particular order. Mifflin County, this is the Electric Avenue / South Logan Boulevard Bike Ped Phase 1. This project is an outcome of the Mifflin Moves Active Transportation Plan, and it's a solid application that addresses approximately a mile-long stretch of heavily utilized route to address pedestrian and bicycle access in that area. The remaining 2 applications and, having a slightly lower score does not mean that there was a deficiency in the application. Certainly, these were all really good projects that were submitted and would all benefit the region to get done. But some of them may be better suited for some other funding or just need a little bit more development. And this was also a tough year to submit an application. So 3 stars was Bloomsburg, and this is a viable concept to improve the 7th Street area for pedestrians in the area. but kind of the impact in conjunction with, or in comparison with some of the other projects, was just slightly less. And again, it's luck of the draw, which other applications come in any particular year. And Lock Haven submitted an active arts corridor project, which is a really great concept and was included in the city's active transportation plan. However, PennDOT Central Office had raised some concerns related to project eligibility because a large component of it was reconstruction of a vehicular thoroughfare, essentially through the alleys. And so for them to take out those components of the project would significantly impact the budget deliverability of it. So that was a 2-star. We love the project concept, but it's just hard to get it through PennDOT's eligibility through the TASA program, and it might be better suited for some other funding sources. So that is the committee's recommendation: is the 2 5-stars, 4 4-stars, the 3-star, and the 2-star. So we can entertain any discussion if anyone had any questions, but otherwise, if these ratings are acceptable to the MPO board, request a motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
I abstain because I have a genuine interest in the Mifflin County project.
There's no discussion. I'll make a motion to accept those as they stand.
Okay, any other discussion? Anybody that did not participate that day and has any questions? But we have Bob in the room. Yeah.
I participated that day. I participated that day. Kristen did an excellent job summarizing. I'll second Greg's motion if there's no other discussion. I think that she nicely summarized it, and those projects are excellent ones to put forward.
Great, we have a motion by Greg, a second by Bob. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
I'm abstaining.
And Steve abstaining as well. We get the Jim and Steve for the abstention.
Doing the same.
So you can, yeah, feel free. We, just a real quick step back on that. The process review guidelines were in for the meeting. Up front is where we ask folks that are sponsoring a project not to vote or sway anything with that deliberation initially. When it comes to the full MPO, it's at your discretion. You know, if you're more comfortable, you can certainly abstain, but it's not a requirement. At this stage of the game, it's the initial advisory recommendation mode that we do that. And we as staff, you know, we're involved throughout, meeting with each of you and the PennDOT teams, you know, offering input, comments, things that can make them more competitive. And it's just at that kind of technical level. Although it does reside with SEDA COG, as you all know from our bylaws and from the officer role, but we stay disconnected or disengaged from that as well with these processes, and we're just here as a technical resource essentially. So that's our kind of disclaimer front for all. So with that being said, if you want to join the ranks of the abstention, that's certainly fine as well, Sean.
Yeah, I think I should. Probably a different situation. I'm actually on the board of the authority, so one more direct connection.
Yeah. So we have Jim, Sean, Steve with abstentions. Any other abstentions?
Yeah, I'll abstain just from having an application in Town of Bloomsburg, Lisa Dooley.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
And on that note, I know the prior one, even for the ARC project, I don't know if you want me to have that vote or abstain from that one as well, since I'm on the board.
We asked for it then and was addressed, so I think, yeah, it's okay. But if you'd rather us note you as an abstention, we can, I think, it's within, I'm not sure, I'm not an expert in Robert's Rules of Orders, but I think we could go back and note that if you'd like to have an abstention, since the meeting's not concluded yet.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't know with the meeting attendance, do you guys have enough to get the votes through though, if I do abstain?
With 4 abstentions, I don't think there's any issue. As I saw it with the quorum, we were well over 9, I think, so.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Let me go real quick back to the front, who all was here present. Okay. We have, what, 4 abstentions. And Justin, so what does I didn't have him marked off earlier, sorry. 1, 2, 3. 5, 6. I think we're okay yet. There are no nays, correct, from anyone? Okay, great. Thanks everyone for your time. Invest in that. It's our every 2-year experience, and we always look forward to. There's a lot of great community projects within the region that are being worked on. As Krista mentioned, it was very stiff competition this time. So thanks for all you invest in that process. And like we mentioned, it's all recommendations we give these ratings and the comments that we compile to PennDOT. Once we hear from the statewide selection committee, we'll certainly share that information as quickly as possible. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we get at least 2. We did last time. Hopefully, at least 2 of these projects will be picked up and funded by the statewide selection team. There's more money in play this time. It's $80 million statewide, so that's a very favorable sign for us. And come spring, we'll have those decisions hopefully.
Is that typically when they make a decision?
Should be in the spring, yeah. So end of January is when all comments, ratings are due from the districts and the planning partners, MPOs and RPOs. And it's just we didn't meet until January 30th. We had to get this action in before the close of the year. And then they go through their process with the selection committee that meets, PennDOT executive team, the governor's office, and hopefully spring is when that will come forward. But hard to say with any certainty if it's March, April, May.
The budget, it pass. Okay. Thank you.
I believe last round it was April when the announcements were.
Thank you, everyone. Next is item J. It's our normal end of the year activity. Nothing had changed since these were presented back at the September MPO meeting. But we have the dates here again as well for your approval on page 56. And we would look for a motion to approve the 2026 meeting dates.
So move.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Bob, thank you for the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Just a reminder, we did vet these with the County Planning Directors Association group, and there were no conflicts there, so we're glad for that. And just as we look ahead, April and June are going to be pretty busy with advertising approvals for the comment periods for the draft TIP and long range plan, and then their adoption in June. And then toward the end of the year, we should expect to hopefully be approving a new work program for the next fiscal year 27-29 period. So big action items. And just put the plug out again. If there's things you want to hear from guest speakers about, feel free to let us know. We'll populate that list. We did have one that was expressed by the Pittsburgh Region Clean Cities group that's been working within our area and throughout the central western portion of the state on alternative fuels programs. So we might have that available for the January meeting as a guest presentation, but feel free to email, phone, smoke signal me any ideas you might have on any presentations throughout the year. Next is item K, another normal end of year business item. So on page 58, we show those members with expiring terms, those being Chris Anderson from Columbia County, Mr. Brad Kerstetter, Indiana County Planning Director, and Justin Scabry. So we will work after today's meeting, get the letter, draft resolutions off for all 3 of those parties. If their boards of commissioners would like to reappoint them, we'd be happy to have you serve again as well. So just a quick notice about that. And then at the bottom, we list the officers, continuation of past trends. And it's my predecessors. It's been the board's preference to have SEDA COG program director serve as the chair. And so we have the opportunity, according to the bylaws, at the end of each meeting, to be election of new officers. If somebody wants to get campaigning here today or propose someone additional, please feel free to do so. But if you wanted to retain myself as the chair, Nate Walker, our PennDOT Central Office liaison voting member, as the vice chair, we could do that at this time as well.
Is Nate Walker willing to continue to serve?
Yes, he had indicated as such over email previously.
I would gladly nominate you to serve again as chair and Nathan Walker as vice chair if you'd like to do so.
Okay, we have a motion from Bob. Is there a second? Second by Jim. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, great. We'll carry forward with that. Incapacitated or unavailable, Nathan will step in as the chair as needed. And again, we'll work to get reappointments for those with expiring terms in our staggered schedule that we have there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then we're up to item L, and I believe, Kristen, do you want to do anything introductory before Brian Funkhauser gives his presentation?
Well, we're still plugging along with the LRTP. They have, Michael Baker, our partner, has, started to put together the draft plan, the kind of the full picture of it, templates to get ready, for plugging that information into an actual document that then gets sent on for review, by our federal partners. So, Brian, if you're there, ready to, present, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
there.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And as Kristen indicated, work has been continuing on the update of the region's long-range transportation plan. Our most recent major activity has been a meeting with the plan steering committee. We met with them back in October. It had been some time since we met with the committee, so we had a lot of ground to cover as part of that meeting. So we did present some of the draft elements of the plan with the group, had good discussion with the committee regarding things like the results of the STC survey. We were able to identify the survey responses from within the SEDA COG MPO region for use in the plans. We talked about those findings, also talked about work that's also been underway with updating the region's functional classification scheme. And I think the intent is for recommendations to be submitted to the state sometime by the end of the year. We've also been able to obtain updated data from the Freight Analysis Framework, or the FAF data. This is free data that's available at the federal level on freight movement, commodity flows within and through the SEDA COG region. So the most recent data set of the FAF data became available sometime in mid-August. So our team has been working on that, developing profiles of commodity flows throughout the SEDA COG region. So we were able to present that and have some discussion on the FAF data. And then also the revenue forecast. The MPO staff has been working on a revenue forecast, looking at the amount of revenue that the MPO could reasonably expect to receive over the life of the plan period out through the year 2050. And so that was another major point of discussion with the committee. We will be, from here, based on the guidance and direction that we've received from the steering committee, we're working on developing a formatted version of the plan, the version that would be public facing. So that effort is underway right now. And our intent is to try to get a version of that back out to the steering committee sometime in December. And so that will include all elements of the plan, kind of a good working draft that they can review and react to in preparation for our next meeting. Looking ahead to next year, just as a reminder, the MPO needs to have the plan adopted by June of next year. And even though we're at the point where we are, there's still a lot of things that we have to go through here over the next 6 or 7 months to get to plan adoption. So this screenshot here, looking ahead to the first half of next year, we're looking at scheduling a 5th meeting with the steering committee to review a draft final plan sometime in February or March. And then by April, we're going to be looking for your approval to release the plan for the public review and comment period. And some of the other major milestones you see there include the 30-day public review and comment period here. During the April-May timeframe, there will be a public open house that we'll be facilitating as part of that. The details of that have not been worked out yet, but we'll be working with MPO staff and the steering committee to get those finalized. And then also another major milestone date includes March 25th. That is the date that has been reserved for us to consult with the ACM, or the Agency Coordination Meeting. And just as a reminder, this is a collection of representatives of environmental resource agencies, and it will be an opportunity for us to present a draft plan to those representatives so we can have a conversation around what are the recommendations or proposals that are needed to mitigate transportation's impact on the environment. So that is a required step that we need to go through. And again, we are on the agenda. We're on their calendar for March 25th in order to touch base with the ACM. So overall, we are on track. Things are on schedule. And Kristen has been keeping everything moving smoothly, but wanted to give you an overview of some of the recent work that we've been involved in. And here on this slide, just a quick look ahead at where we need to be over the next several months. And we'll have more details to share with you at future MPO meetings. Kristen?
Thank you, Brian. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. Next is item M. It's the Transportation Improvement Program update. Mostly verbal here. We do have within your packet on pages 60 to 62 some timeline information. So that's in tabular form, and then our typical schematic. So just wanted to mention that back in September is when we did get endorsement of the local bridge priorities. And so those were submitted to PennDOT right after that meeting, working through the process of developing the draft tip and see what could land from those local bridge prioritization recommendations that we had. Both districts, have to work through each of their pavement teams, the bridge teams, and project managers. And so it's still in process for the draft tip to be prepared, but it will be submitted to the central office before the end of December. We'll try to share that as soon as possible with the members. And come January for that MPO meeting, we'll take that into the typical at-a-glance charts that we develop and kind of give you that high-level summary of the TIP projects, number of new projects, the breakdown of funding, pre-construction versus construction and by phase, bridges versus pavement and so forth. So we'll have that generated in time for the January meeting to share with you. And then the draft tip that we talked about, the April 10th meeting is when we'll look to get approval to advertise that for public comment for 30 days and hold that meeting during that comment period for public input. And then June 12th is the date where we look to get adoption of it. So it can go off to the state and Federal Highway Administration and get all those reviews conducted, approvals in place for this to take effect come October 1st for the next tip update. So again, not project listings to share at this juncture just yet. Those are being refined and we'll get those out to you as soon as possible. But any questions on the TIP project development process?
Hey, Steve, Mark Schultz here.
Yes.
Just a quick comment, Steve, that we have uploaded a number of our projects into MPMS, and that you will be able to utilize one map and pull those details for those projects for the draft 27 tip. We're still in conversations about bridges and local bridges. At this time, we're looking at about 17 new starts for years the first 2 years of the draft tip, 27 and 28. 6 of those being roadway, and 11 of them currently planned as bridge. But again, we're still talking about bridge preservation and local bridge needs.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And we have set our coordination meeting with the PennDOT Central Office executive team for February 2nd. So part of the negotiation process, that's an important step as well. But again, the draft tip submission will occur here in late December at the latest.
Hey, Steve, just to piggyback on Mark, we're still working on basically creating projects and getting things to balance. I mean, we're hopefully be ready to start entering things into MPMS after the holiday here, Thanksgiving holiday. But we're looking at right now about 30 new bridge starts and 14 roadway projects that'll be coming on to the TYP. I don't have specific years for all that yet. Some will be early, some will be late.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions or comments?
I would like to make a comment. Chris, just an observation, and I think it's a positive. Since the activation of the new signal light at the 54-642 interchange, the safety corridor project, since that's been activated, traffic flow has been calmed a bit, and it regulates it a little better coming into the Danville area. And I just wanted you to know that many of the
Okay, yeah,
people
that's
are very
good to, that's
appreciative of that.
good to know, Greg. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, it seems like a much safer move right now. As well.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Next is item N. We're pretty good here on the rounding stretch. This is the Active Transportation Committee update. Just verbal, nothing within your packet. But I wanted to mention that our last Active Transportation Committee meeting was on November 12th. If any of you didn't participate and wanted it, we could share Betsy Kramer's presentation and the Kittleson Associates Engineer presentation about the City of Shamokin's Safe Streets and Roads for All Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. They did a lot of great analysis looking at the high injury network, and might be maybe pertinent for you, maybe Jim as well, for your Safe Streets and Roads for All, how they prioritized their recommendations in that process. And that was the first one through the gates of all the Safe Streets and Roads for All planning grants within the region. So they're into now the implementation mode and trying to get some demonstration of the successes there. So we have that. And if you have proposals for future meetings, let us know. It'd be February 18th for the next Active Transportation Committee. As I mentioned, alluded to earlier, the sidewalk inventory that's coming together for the region. We'll probably share that as part of the meeting. I did bring again, I had last time, the bicycle crash cards, if those are of interest to you. As some printouts there of the crash card and the QR code sticker and a little bit of a pamphlet as well. Feel free to take those with you. We have more downstairs if you'd like them for that bike crash card. We have the online option available as well, but that is a paper form that you can take and distribute, pass out to others in your network. And the big thing I want to mention, if you haven't been plugged into the recent committee meetings, is we're working with Pennsylvania Downtown Center to put on a active transportation planning workshop March 20th, 2026. If you want to tentatively hold that or place a hold on your calendars, that's when it'll occur on Friday, March 20th at the CSIU facility in Montandon. So we're really pleased to be able to do that. They've had prior sessions that we've, I think, promoted elsewhere in the state, and we'll cover a lot of the key tenets of active transportation planning. It'll get into funding options and availability, some programming, technical resources, there'll be some materials and handouts available as well. So we're hoping to get at least 45 people in attendance for that day. It'll probably be like an 8:30 start, and maybe check in snacks, then start 8:30, have lunch provided, do a walking audit in the afternoon, and then wrap things up probably by 3:30 in the afternoon. Target County is Northumberland for the PA Walk Works and Target Health because of a lot of those factors for obesity rates, public health, income levels, and so forth. So we'll be doing a big push within Northumberland County, and then adjacent, like Lycoming County is another targeted area for Department of Health. So hopefully bring out municipalities, county personnel, nonprofits, Center for Independent Living, those types of organizations. So we'll get more material together, promotional wise, and share those with NPM members, and hopefully as many of you and your peers can get out to that, and we'll have a nice full house. I think I can accommodate up to 60 people. Tina has been coordinating with them, so but we'll hope to get at least 45 in attendance. So that's the big active transportation planning news that we had, and more to come in the near future. Any questions about that workshop or anything else active transportation related? Hearing none and nothing, I don't think, in the chat. We are now up to the member forum piece of the agenda here, and a couple things are in there and the interest items within the package starting on page 64. But really just wanted to open this up to any of the members, anything that you're working on or anything for the good of order that you would like to share. John, please.
Steve, this is sort of active transportation related. We had deployed a rectangular rapid flashing beacon RRFB on the Buffalo Valley Rail Trail and Fairground Road a couple of years ago. And it had a passive detection device that was supposed to detect people approaching the roadway and then would trigger the flashers. I've had a lot of problems with that passive detection, false triggers, going off during a rainstorm, not detecting people crossing, and the vendor tried to adjust the sensitivity on that multiple times, and just this week PennDOT in the township and us met were ripping those passive detectors out. They don't even sell them anymore, the vendor, so there's clearly some kind of problem. So just an FYI, do RRFB. The only real true passive detection is a camera, like a traffic signal camera. Don't use a radar, laser beam. What we've heard, they're all faulty. So we're going back to standard crosswalk, pedestrian or bicyclists on the trail have to push the button to activate the beacon. I just want to share that. If anybody tries to sell you that bill of goods, don't buy it.
I'm sorry for the failure and the lesson learned, but thanks for the update. Any other items from members in the room or anyone online? Okay,
Yeah, this is yes, Jeff from PA Silken Transportation Alliance. As I think most folks are aware, we finally got a state budget passed last week. Unfortunately for transit, there wasn't anything included per se to address the systems issues. Couple things though, in the Human Services Code, there is a study included in there on the MATP program, Medical Assistance Transportation, like they're looking at a broker again. There were some similar discussions in 2018, passed the NAT bill, and then it was repealed in 2019, so they didn't do it. But they're going to do it again. It looks like there's a 180-day time frame to do that. Also separately on a state level, the legislation on e-scooters is, they haven't scheduled a hearing yet, but understanding it's coming up. There are two bills to watch. One is Senate Bill 1008, which basically would address more of the issues with children in e-scooters. There was a child killed in Delaware County, and the state senator is Tim Carney. He is it was one of his constituents. So they're having a lot of issues in that county with e-scooters. And just for folks' awareness, e-scooters aren't legal in Pennsylvania, even though a lot of us see them all over the place. So, and also House Bill 1633, that's the bill to restart the scooter program in the city of Pittsburgh and expand it to third-class cities, which are a couple in the SEDA COG area, Rep. Kincaid. That may be coming up. I don't think you'll hear about it in 2025, but early 2026. And then federally, we have a budget through January 30th to 26. As far as transportation, for anybody that's doing travel, the FAA basically has lifted any of the restrictions. All the air traffic controllers should be back. So if you're traveling over the holidays, you'll be okay. I did want to note one other thing, just to go back to the state budget for folks that are interested in housing programs. I know SEDA COG has gotten funding for those. The governor's whole home repairs program didn't make it in the final cut. They also cut 24% from what's called the Keystone Communities line item, which I know we have an organization we work with that gets funding for that for home modifications for, I think Northumberland's one of the county, maybe a couple others there. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on state and federal budget issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, Sean.
Well, yeah, following up on Jeff's comments about the e-scooters, we're seeing e-scooters in our county and also growing problem with fast traveling e-bikes. We allow class 1 on our trail, which is pedal assist only. But on the trail in our communities, we're seeing a lot of people on fully motorized e-bikes going 30, 40 miles an hour. And I know it's a problem across the state. I think there is some legislation starting to percolate on e-bike regulation as well in the Commonwealth, which is sorely needed the way things are going. I don't know if anybody else having issues with them.
We've gotten to the point where we don't even try to put a policy in place because we have to be out there and be the policeman to try to enforce it. So realistically, if we see somebody acting dangerously, we'll approach them individually and ask them to knock it off. But yeah, it's an issue for us as well. We've gotten complaints repeatedly.
How do you enforce it?
That's just that we can't. DCNR put policies in place and they govern how large it can be, what the speed limit is and so on. But you quite literally need to put a traffic cop out there to that with a radar gun checking the speeds and so on, and we can't do it.
Does the municipality where the trail is have to pass an ordinance to make it enforceable?
Regulator does typically, is what our experience is, but class 1 e-bikes only go like, I don't know, 20 miles per hour or something, and they're pedal assist. And what people are doing is buying a cheap one on Amazon from China, and then they're homemade retrofits that bypass we'll get them up to higher speeds too. So can't even easily pick them out now either. If you'll see one that looks like it should be pedal assist, but they modified it. They're riding on the streets and sidewalks in town and that.
The hard part with any of our ordinances and such is enforcement. Most of our small counties, townships, you don't have the facilities or the personnel or the funds. So you can have a law, but you have no team. That's very difficult. And then our nice folks that are hiking and using the trail accordingly are running the jeopardy of being run over or hurt. It's difficult.
Well, it's kind of ironic. DCNR allows you to have electric bikes, I don't know, like class 2 up to a class 2 on their property and on their trails, but Pennsylvania Game Commission prohibits e-bikes on any property. There's 2 state agencies with 2 differing viewpoints on allowance of e-bikes, but yeah, it's been a problem. There's another problem on walking trails that e-bikes are on walking trails. There's complaints that they're getting, they're getting hit or run off the trail. I have one and, just need to be courteous with people who are walking and kind of say, hey, I'm behind you. And I mean, going 40 miles an hour on the trail, that's fast. Mine is, I could go up to 28 and that's too fast. 40, that's crazy. I mean, I'm saying, I'm not disputing that they can't go that fast, but that's just, that's very unsafe. But yeah.
It's a hard one to solve. Since
Which
I know there was
county said they're seeing the e-scooters? I wasn't clear.
Union.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just.
It was a big debate at this week's the governor's PPAC meeting, and there is legislation out there. I mean, it was a knockdown, drag out for a long time conversation about them. So it's a widespread concern.
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen them on the trails in Montour, but I've started seeing more of the electric bikes and scooters in the community in Montour.
anything final before we seek an adjournment? Okay, if not, we'd look for a motion to adjourn, reconvene in the new year on January 30th.
So moved.
Thank you, Sean, for the motion. Greg for the second. Thank you all in favor. Please say aye. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Happy holidays,
Thank you, you
everyone.
as well.
26.
Thank you.
Bye.
Congratulations on the project.
Thank you, everybody.
See you guys.
Sorry, copy us a little bit short here slightly, but hopefully everybody gets a break and stay in for the next meeting when we come back in.
Type of date.